Framed Roger Rabbit, the film, released in 1988 and was loosely based on the novel written 7 years earlier by Gary K. Wolfe titled Who Censored Roger Rabbit? The film has been noted for its artistic significance in combining live action with animation in an eye-popping and imaginative way, and it had plenty of adult themes in it despite featuring Warner Brothers and Disney characters like Bugs Bunny and Mickey Mouse. Plus, there's that terrifying moment with the little boot. Oh my gosh. Developer Rare put the NES version of the game out the door a year later. Let's see what's up. This game ends up being a rather ambitious action-adventure, and to its credit, it does an excellent job of remaining relevant to the film. You're Bob Hoskins' character, Eddie Valiant, and you're closely followed by Roger Rabbit. Despite being the namesake, Roger serves next to no purpose in this game besides getting in the way. As Detective Eddie, you must scour the city of Los Angeles and Toontown in search of the 4 pieces of the missing will, just like in the film. You search in drawers, mouse holes, cabinets, trash cans, and really anywhere you can search. While you're looking for the pieces of the will, you'll find much more than that. You'll find explosives, a crowbar, and even a cartoon hole. You'll need just about everything you can find, so search everywhere. Surprisingly, for an NES game, Los Angeles has some size. Thankfully, you won't need to search each building top to bottom if you talk to the city's people first. They're honest folk. If they say there's nothing inside the building, then there's no reason to search it, just leave. So that's helpful. The city can be confusing though, and each time you play, the items are randomized to different locations, so a walkthrough can only get you so far. You're on your own. Search, search, search. You'll get some hints on how to use some items, and the manual helps a little, but you'll need to experiment on your own to figure out how some of those items work. Most are pretty easy though. You'll get a whistle that will let you call your car Benny so you can go bombing around town in him. Other items you'll need are dynamite for blasting your way to Toontown, or a rattle so you can convince a cave snake to give you a piece of a will. Not in the movie. If you're inside Benny, you can stick to roads, but you can exit him at any time to go on foot. You won't need to go on foot often unless you're looking for a cave, which you need to do to search for a piece of the will, but when in the car you might hear a siren, and that's Judge Doom's Toon Patrol coming for you. Inevitably, they'll catch up to you a time or 2, or 3, or 12, and take Roger hostage. In order to free Roger, you have to select the right punchline to a joke. As you might recall from the film, the Toon Patrol is at their weakest when they're laughing hysterically. However, this is aggravating. It starts with 10 seconds on the clock, but it doesn't show you the clue until there's 8 seconds left. Then you have to read it, and it took me a while to figure out how to cycle through the punchlines. It's not just simply using the D-pad. You have to hold in select and press left or right at the same time. Why? Why not? Then once you find the right punchline, you press A to confirm it. It's a panic-inducing nightmare, and under no circumstance have clever little jokes been more terrifying, because if you don't get it, you lose a life. Lives are precious. You only get 3, and you only get 3 continues. And your lives can be lost in a number of simple ways too, like getting hit by a car on the road, not coming up with a punchline fast enough, losing a fist fight, or just getting attacked by a rat. And that's right, of course, Eddie Valiant has to put his hands on some tunes, so sometimes one of Doom's henchmen will trap you and you can't leave the screen until you fight him. The important thing to remember here is that you can't spam your punch. You can hold it in or you can tap it to build it up, but you can't rapid fire it. You have to time it just right. And speaking of that rat attack, there are a few buildings you arrive at where immediately a rat will zip across the screen and knock you down for a cheap death. Building 19. Heads up, it's infuriating. You can take down a password though, but it's super long and has both zeros and the letter O in there, and they don't look that different. Why? Like I said, this one is quite ambitious. I appreciate the open world, non-linear storyline, and the clue-based puzzles. What I don't like are cheap moments like this, where I have to use special boots to jump across a chasm. There's no jumping in the game up until this moment, and there's a giant bat or moth thing hounding me toward my doom, or instances where I need to react with an item, but I have to cycle through 15 plus items to get to the one I need. I just want to use my fist. Why is that an inventory item? And that one rat. Total cheap life-stealing vermin jerk. Everything feels very stacked against you out the gate. There's a lot of places to search and a lot of ways to die, and in that way, yes, it's tough, but it's not a terrible game. It might take a few attempts, but once you get a feel for it and know what it expects from you, it starts to click. The drawbacks are significant though. Successful runs derailed by a silly cheap death being the biggest one, and that's hard to overlook. And you might get bored searching everywhere for items and clues. One fun fact is that in the paint club where Jessica Rabbit is performing, you can come across her phone number. For a while I thought it was part of the game and I was looking for a phone to use the number, but turns out it was just meant to be an actual number players could dial for helpful gameplay tips. That number is no longer usable for this purpose though. Once again, the music here was composed by David Wise, and as you'd expect, it's decent. Graphically, the game is kind of bland in the 2D settings, but the top-down stuff looks pretty good, if not repetitive. You can definitely tell everything here is from Roger Rabbit though, and you have to appreciate how close to the movie they tried to keep this one. Well, if you need more old-school Roger Rabbit in your life, the Game Boy version came out in 1991 and is another overhead adventure game, but this time by Capcom. From what I can tell, it looks pretty good. I've not put a lot of time into it, but if you like Roger Rabbit, maybe try it out. Well, that does it for Who Framed Roger Rabbit on the NES. Always look out for rats, and thanks for watching.